What's up, y'all? Andre, big CEO, back with Garage Talks. We got something different for y'all. It's called the Garage Bible Talks, the YBM version. I feel like the Bible is such an interesting book, y'all. The more we read it, the more we understand it. I decide I'm gonna go and break down some chapters every time I read. I kind of break it down little by little for myself into funny stories, into just like the way the Bible sound like us. The point of this is it's real word, real life, for anyone who have ears to hear, from a mouth to speak. Right now I'm at Mark 6, the sixth chapter, and it's a bunch of different stories in that chapter that was kind of interesting to me. But just going off the first chapter, the first story in the chapter is about Jesus and how he went back home to his hometown. And it was just crazy to hear, like, man, he was going through black people problems. Like, ain't that what we all do? We go off somewhere and we celebrate it in the world. And when we come back to our hood, to the hometown, we feel like we're going to get love there. And even Jesus, when he went back there was no faith, no love in him. And actually, instead of being celebrated, they questioned him, like, ain't you the dude that do carpentry? Ain't you Mary's son? That's what they were saying in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, instead of showing Jesus love for all that he's been doing across the world, they was taking away faith from him. They was putting doubt in him because of what they thought they knew of him, because of his past. And so it's just crazy to hear that, and how Jesus is talking about that in the Bible. And we go through that every day. And the lesson that I got from that was just that, like, you know, wherever there's no faith, where people does not have faith in you, they're too busy looking in the past. They can't see the good that can come in you, or the greatness that comes from you. You know what I mean? But at the same time, when you're not surrounded by people that has faith in you, it's hard for you to really grow to your potential. Jesus only saved a few people, because he's still powerful. So he was still able to save people. But he was explaining how, because the faith just wasn't big there, they didn't have faith in him as much. He wasn't even able to save as many people or to heal as many people as he usually do. You know what I mean? So just thinking about that is like, man, depending on what environment you in, what circle you have around you, if they don't have genuine faith or believe in whatever your mission or your goal is in life, or to get better or to grow, you know what I mean, or even they faith in God, um, you're limited. You're only limited to how much faith someone have, you know. And so sometimes, yeah, going back to your hometown, we can't feel bad for feeling rejected when we go back to our hometown, because even Jesus went through it. How Jesus fed 5,000 people. And so this is in the verses 30 through 44 of chapter 6. And this was crazy to me, because pretty much what happened, it was Jesus and his apostles, and he's like, all right, they came back home, back to him, and they're like, yeah, they're telling Jesus all the great things they've done. And, it's pretty much, he's like, all right, let's go take a rest. So he get him in his boat, when they go off to go in an off spot, you know what I'm saying, where nobody's supposed to know about. And when they get there, a crowd of people still found Jesus. And so he like, all right, well, he got compassion for people, because in the Bible, he said they were like sheep with no shepherd, and so he had compassion for them. And so even though they had a long day, he decided to still preach and heal people there. And during that time, the shepherds, and I mean the disciples was like, man, Jesus, what's up? Like, man. And he's like, hey, let's feed them. They hungry, right? What we got? And they're like, Jesus. He said, Jesus, that's gonna take half a year of what we got. He said, man, look, what we got in the fridge? Pretty much. That's pretty much what Jesus said. He said, what we got in the fridge? He said, all right, we got 5 loaves, which was bread, 5 loaves of bread, and 2 fish. He say, tell all the people, let's break them up in crowds. Tell them all, go in the grass. And the disciples just couldn't believe it, right? 5,000 people, you got 12 loaves of bread, and you got 2 fish. And Jesus fed everyone, and they were all satisfied. And at the end, there was still 12 baskets. Um, there was still 12 baskets left over. You know what I mean? And so for me, that lesson is it's first funny to me, just like, right, like how God taught it, just to me, when I have to read stuff, right? Like, he got his disciples, and it's 5,000 people. When he like, come on, y'all, let's feed these people. And his disciples like, hey, Jesus, I mean, you the man and all, but we only got 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. We barely eat. And Jesus like, man, look, let me show you how we do this. So it's such a dope thing to me, right? Like, the lesson is that Jesus can do so much with so little, and we can't sit here and try to look at the little we got and be like, oh, this isn't enough to do things, when as long as you use whatever you got, if it's a little, and you put the rest of that faith in God, God is he gonna make it work. You know what I mean? He fed 5,000 people. So for me, that was the biggest lesson. And honestly, that was the reason why I kind of got back onto doing this, and why I said, all right, I'm going to go out and do something I'm kind of nervous of doing. And I'm going to talk about the Bible, and put this on the podcast. And I've been doing, like I said, I'm on chapter 6 now of Mark. So let's just say I started Mark first, right? Mark chapter 1. But this one right here, reading this chapter, it told me, like, all right, use what I got, give the rest to God, and let's see, let him feed us. So let's keep walking by faith, y'all. I hope me breaking it down in my version, the YBM version, I hope this kind of help make the Bible sound interesting. Hope you got something from it. People who probably don't really read the Bible, because I'll be honest, I grew up in the church. I ain't gonna say I ain't grew up in the church. I'm not gonna say I never heard the stories, but I wasn't really big at picking the Bible up and reading it. You know what I mean? Then when I wasn't really understanding it. I wish I knew the Bible was so big, like how a lot of people out here. But I remember reading the scripture that was explaining, and I kind of said in the beginning of how God was explaining, how Jesus explained, he's speaking parables because there's people who can hear. He don't want them to understand though. And I feel like for a long time when I was reading the Bible, I didn't understand. Whenever I was trying to learn it. And I'm not saying that like I'm understanding it now, but as I take my time, some of these parables start to unfold for me. And so I just hope that I can help someone else, help unfold the Bible a little bit more. And we go through this journey. Peace.